we be resourceful and make the most of the opportunity that we've got at this time in history. This week, very honoured to have on the Sales War Chest panel, we've got Robert Tighe from Storybud, and we've also got Iona Elwood-Smith from Grow My Business. And Robert and Iona, it's just wonderful to have you here on the panel. I'll stop sharing just now, because what we'll do is we'll just go back to see all our faces, welcome everybody that's just come in, and I'd like to introduce you to Robert and to Iona. So first of all, Robert, you're from Storybud, which, hello there, oh wonderful, founded in 2018, designed to help businesses find and tell better stories, which is great. You've had an 18-year writing career, so you must be an expert by now, I'm sure.
Still learning, still learning.
Oh, very good, very good. And there's a huge list, isn't there, Robert, of all the different publications that you've worked for. We listed a few of them: Metro, NZ Geographic, country editor for Red Bulletin, which is for Red Bull, Herald on Sunday. So lots of writing experience. And really, it's a time, isn't it, when it's important for your story to stand out, because the world's really just gone online. So that's what I know you'll be able to share about today.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, awesome. And Iona, welcome, Iona Elwood-Smith. It's been a pleasure to introduce you to each other as well, because I think that you probably enjoy working together on this webinar. So you're the founder of Grow My Business. And essentially, you know, after about 20 years in sales and operations and business strategy, and just being good at getting the best out of people, you founded Grow My Business in 2015. And it's all about making sure that your website is working well, because really that's your specialist area. Websites are critical to business and organisational growth. And you've got quite a strategic approach, haven't you, when you build websites? It's not just about the design, it's about whether it's getting your messaging and things across. And you've built 150 websites. My head's spinning when I read that. It's like reading all the list of the things, the places that Robert's written for. So you must be an expert as well. And welcome to those who are now coming into the webinar. I've just introduced Robert Tighe from Storybud and Iona Elwood-Smith from Grow My Business. And of course today, Smarketing, which is like the merge or the alignment of sales and marketing, really that could almost describe the time that we're in, where your online presence has now become critical to support your sales growth. You might have seen the post on LinkedIn: an English woman, an Irishman and a New Zealander walked into a webinar. So Iona, you were born in England. Robert, you are from Ireland. I'm a New Zealander, but I've got some Irish background. So that's how we came to be today. And essentially, online credibility just became more important. We've had 4 weeks in lockdown. Everybody's got their eyeballs on their screen. Here we are doing webinars. You're all here with us today. So it must be true that the world has shifted online in this last few weeks. And of course, customers are scouring the internet looking for information to validate what you're saying. And even if you commence with an outbound sales process, those customers will be looking online to check that you're the real deal, to validate your offering. One of the first places, of course, that they check is your website. So why don't we hand over to you, Iona? I know you've got some wonderful things to share about how to make sure that your website, your online sales rep, is working hard for you and representing you to the best of your ability. Welcome, Iona.
Thanks very much, Mary. Look, you know, thanks for having me here. And look, I'm completely passionate about websites. I didn't used to be. In fact, completely useless with technology. I kind of reinvented myself at about the age of 45. A whole lot of life experiences that we won't go into here because that's a whole book. But yeah, look, for me, I was a business strategist at the time, and I really felt that helping people describe what they did through their website, that's what started me on my journey, and it started from one website to website. And off we go. So yes, over 150 later. It makes me sound exhausted, but but it's been great, and you know, everyone is different. So look, I'm just going to share my screen here. Just if I click this button and go here, this should. All right, so you can see my screen there. Just let me know that's all looking good, Mary.
Yes, fabulous.
Okay, cool. So while I'm passionate about websites, I talk to people, and these are how the conversations pretty much go. Oh, I have a website. Oh, it was built several years ago, but it's fine. Or it's never bought me business anyway, so you know I don't really need to spend too much time on my website. And there's the old, oh, it's on my to-do list. Yes, I will do something with my website. Yes, I'm planning to any moment now. Wow. Let me just see if I can get to the next slide here, talking about technology. Websites actually just became a priority. Everything went online. We've gone from having meetings and events and coffees and meeting in face-to-face. We've gone to Zoom, we've gone to social media, and we've gone to webinars. And from those online connections, as Mary pointed out, what are they doing? Everybody is now going and checking out your website. So what does your website say about you and your business? And how happy are you about those messages and what that's communicating to people? So let me just click here. So if you're really happy, that's great. This is a refresher. You know, the good news is that the fundamentals stay the same and you can just come back to these. The bad news is you kind of need to refresh and review your website annually. At least every couple of years you will be refreshing and changing a lot on your website. It used to be 10 years ago you'd buy a website and it would do you for the next 10 years, and that's all great, but those days have gone. And you also used to pay about 10 grand for those websites. Now you can get websites a lot cheaper and you can make a lot of the changes yourself. So what if you're not really happy with your website? What can you do? And how has it been affected by everything that's happening right now? So the first thing that you always need to do with your website is review the purpose. What actually is the purpose of your website? You know, is it a brochure? Is it just to be there because you're going to be referring people to it? And that's totally okay. Is it somewhere that you are wanting to show your expertise in a field? Is it somewhere you are wanting just to generate sales? You just want people to go there and buy stuff. So just be very, very clear on what your purpose is of your website. And in this changing world that we're in now, is that still relevant? Who is your audience? So who are you talking to through your website? Now, many people say to me, oh, but I've got more than one audience. Totally okay. What you need to do is be clear who you're speaking to on what pathway. So I just built a website for Vicky Evans, and she's got two very distinctive pathways. She's got an audience who is professional and an audience that is personal. So all we did is we just created a pathway for each, and then they went in their own direction. And what that means is, for number 3, the key messages that are relevant to that particular audience, she can create content, she can write, she can communicate to that audience. And that is probably the biggest thing people do wrong on a website, is that they actually try to talk to everybody from the homepage and give all their messages and too much information, and they haven't really found their voice, and they're not talking to anybody specifically because they're trying to just cast a very, very wide net. So think about your key messages. You know, what is it your, what is, get my words all mixed up now. What is it you offer? And why is that interesting to me? And that sounds quite harsh, doesn't it? But, you know, we are in an online world and we're flicking through really, really quickly. So you need to capture my attention. So if you've got this really cool thing, I don't need to know that it's a cool thing. I need to know what that cool thing can do for me. In terms of phrasing things around interest, you might want to look at things like, is it saving me money? Is it making me money? Is it saving me time? Is it saving me stress? Am I losing time, stress, money by not having this service or this product? So they're the kind of things that you need to think about in how you're phrasing benefits, because we use that word benefits a lot of the time, but still people tend to write things about, well, it does this and it does it really, really fast. Okay, lots of things do it, but why do I need it to be fast? Because it will save me X, Y, Z, and that's how you need to communicate that message. So if you look at this list of fundamentals that are true for every single website, you can look at your website as it exists now and then respond to the change that you might need to reposition that for. And it might just be a little bit of a tweak of the wording. It might be that your whole product's changed. It might be that you've now brought in an online shop or an online school, or you've added resources because now we want to connect and we want to be engaged on your website. We're not just clicking through for some information and toddling off. So you do need to think about how you can adapt your existing content, your existing website and the messages to the new dynamic that we've got going on out there right now, which is getting to know you and your business a whole lot better. So if I click through here, and so if you think about all those fundamentals, so you've got, you know who you're speaking to, you know what you're going to say, you know what the benefits are of your business, you need to take the customer on a journey. And look, there's a gazillion, I actually have no clue how many, so let's just go with gazillion websites out there, but they are fundamentally the same structure. So every single website needs these 5 things. They need very clear navigation. Look, I'm 52, but I cannot get onto a website and it's just got those little hamburger things, right? You know, they're fine on a mobile phone. But if your audience is a 52-year-old woman, I'm telling you now, you need clearer navigation, because I can't work those things out. It's not clear to me. You need to make it simple. It's back to the amount of time that we spend on a website, which gets smaller and smaller, the window of time that you've got to capture our interest. So next comes calls to action. Now, some people question why I put that second. It's like, and I had a lady recently and she said to me, oh, I don't need a call to action right at the top because, you know, they haven't read it all yet. And it's like, oh, yes, well, they're not going to make that decision right here, right now. They did not turn up to your website. They're going to read everything and go, wonderful, I want that. I'm going to click it. I'm going to buy it right here, right now. If you've got that happening, yay for you. You are one of very, very few people. But she may well return to that website. She will return because she's thought about it, or she's been through other pages, she's had conversations, she's seen on social media, she's checked you out on LinkedIn, she's made a decision that she wants to contact you. She does not want to scroll all the way down to the bottom of the page to find your contact details. You need to have it. You need to create, and this is why we call it a customer journey, you need to create pathways. So for that person who is returning, who wants to contact you right now, you have provided that facility. I have been on websites where I could not find out how to get in touch with the person. How frustrating is that? It's like owning a shop and forgetting to open the door. You know, you've left it locked and wondered why you've got no customers. So yes, have clear calls to action and space them throughout the page so we can make a decision at any time to contact you, because that is the primary purpose of the website. The website, much like a shop, does not sell your stuff. The website is there to create the opportunity for connection and conversation. So the number one goal of most websites is to get you to take action, and that action should be to contact or connect with you. So next is the content. We start thinking about the content, and this is find your voice, and I'm sure Robert's going to talk to this a little bit more, but you do need to decide on your tone of voice for your website. Now for mine, it's quite chatty, because you might have noticed I'm quite chatty, and that's the way I connect and work with people. So that's the persona I have on my Grow My Business. But I'm also actually launching another brand, which is at a very different audience, and my voice on that will be very different. So it depends on your audience, and you decide what your voice is going to be. And then you take them with you on that journey through your website. You talk about what it is you offer, why it's interesting, why you should work with, you know, if you're on my website, why should you work with me? Why should you choose me over all the other web designers? So you need to take them with you and answer their questions. So if people, what's that sales term, Mary, about objections, countering objections, that's the word. So yes. You need to think, if people have got questions or concerns or anything like that, and they're really big ones, you want to get rid of them right off the bat. So, you know, for websites, it's often about price, and that's a tricky one. But if people have got real concerns, COVID has been a good one. A lot of people have had to put a COVID thing on their websites, so people understand that they have got a contactless process, or whether they are open or not. So make sure where people's concerns are, that you are addressing them. And again, keep having those calls to action, because, wow, that sounds cool. Oh, I was worried about that, so now I'm going to contact Mary, or I'm going to contact Robert. Break your content up. We're online all the time. We don't read big chunks of text at all. Be really careful about overemphasizing, because sometimes if we have big text and then we bold this and we bold that, and we make it really big for people, but what happens is that we end up shouting. You know, we're shouting at people. So just be aware of how you put that content together. Provide breaks so that they can kind of think and, you know, just digest it in chunks. And always have testimonials. It's, you know, the buzzword is social proof, but the actual word is testimonials. If you're talking about your really cool widget, then you need to have a testimonial from somebody who's used it on that page. I'm not a fan of pages or testimonial pages. That takes you away out of the journey that I'm taking you through in the page. I want you to think, oh, okay, this looks interesting. Oh, that she's talking to me because I'm her audience. Great. She's answering the questions and concerns that I've had. I now know why to pick this person. And look, somebody else said they were really cool too. So that's the whole journey. That's just your homepage. And it pretty much is standard through the rest of your pages too. But we make our decisions of where to click from that homepage. So that's always why homepage is king. Now I've put in bold down the bottom here, mobile optimization. So I think last look, the stats were around 80% of websites are viewed on mobile. So you really, it shocks me to see some websites are still so old that they are not mobile optimized. As well as just a really painful user experience. Google doesn't like it. Google ranks mobile first. So if you're not mobile optimized, then yeah, you're not doing really good. So check your mobile optimization. So once you've done all of that, then you can drive traffic. And it's been interesting in this time where people are not making as many sales, or, you know, their businesses have changed, and they've come to me and said, oh, you know, I need to sell more through my website. marketing and get people to my website. And I look at their website and think, yeah, no, save your money. You don't need to do that until you've got those fundamentals right. Because if you're sending people and you've not got the right messages, you're not speaking to the right audience, and you haven't shown them why they should be working with you, then you're spending a lot of time filling a leaky bucket. But once you've set those fundamentals, then you can start doing it. And what's changed in this time is that, again, back to that connection and to the engagement, we're looking more at resources. So you can offer a resources page. This is where you start adding value. You know, for Mary, she's in sales, so she can be, I know she does book reviews. So that's a really useful resource, you know, tools that people can use. She's running webinars, which has been really, really awesome, and such a growth area and such a really great way to get people to go check out your website. Blogging, should be blogging more than ever, because you can be sharing that around. We are just consuming so much online. But, you know, with that comes that little bit of caution, is that, you know, you just don't want to be doing it for no reason. You know, it must give value to you and to me. And lastly is SEO. Now, SEO is hugely important. Your website should be totally search engine optimized. But again, you've got to have those fundamentals, because if you don't know what your key messages are, how do you know what your key search words are as well? Now, I've bolded down the bottom there, online courses and online shop. I mentioned briefly earlier, they are real growth industries. I've put 2 online shops live for people, added to their websites in the last 10 days, and I've got some data over here. What was it? Increase of page views 327% by adding a shop to one website, and the other was just a little bit lower at 259%. So if you've got something to sell, even if it's online books, online resources, definitely that is a real growth industry. Online courses, I've done quite a few online courses with the Helpful Academy, and we had our biggest month ever in April. So these are really huge ways that you can, if you are having to change what your business is doing right now because you can't get out and interact and meet people, really look about what you can put online. It's actually really quite simple. There are so many tools online to help you set up an online course. I'm about to film a course about setting up WooCommerce, setting up a shopping cart on websites, and you know, I probably will film and do most of that in one day. So that's me. I got a flash there. Was that from you, Mary? Were you giving me my 10-minute?
I think you might have gone just a wee tad over, but it's so interesting. But I know we'll be able to get more in the
very
questions
cool
as well. Yes,
yes. Well, as you see, I am quite passionate about it, and I could go on forever. So yeah, absolutely.
Oh, brilliant. Oh, look, that's great. Thank you for sharing. And
you're welcome.
Thanks to those that came in just while Iona was speaking. As we said at the beginning, the replay is going to be sent out to all those that registered. And you've done a great job covering off what a website can actually do for your business. Look, I'd love to introduce Robert now. So Robert will help you put the words on your website, and obviously put the words about yourself and your business in various other places on the internet, on LinkedIn, etc. Robert, love to hear more from you. There you go.
Thanks, Mary. I'll share my screen as well and get into it. I'm going to focus, as you mentioned, on LinkedIn as the platform to share your story with the world. Most of this advice though can be applied to pretty much any other social media platforms that you use to share your story with customers. So yeah, the first and most obvious thing, if you want to share your story with the world, the first and most obvious thing about LinkedIn and any social media is if you're not in, you can't win. The name of the game is attention, right? if you're not getting any attention or any love on social media, then you're wasting your time and your money. So to get any attention, you have to play the game. I'm just checking, is my screen sharing there?
No.
No, not just yet, Rob.
Not. Okay.
No.
All right, 1 second. I'll try that again.
Yeah.
Apologies for that. There we go.
There we are. Wonderful.
Is it? Have I got the right screen up?
Yes, your first screen's up. Yes.
Yeah. Cool. Very good. Yeah. Apologies for that. Yeah, as I was saying, to get any attention, you have to play the game. You've got to post, you've got to comment, you've got to engage with other people's posts. I know a lot of people have things they dislike about LinkedIn, and there's things I don't like about it myself either. But the more you put into it, the more you get out of it, and that's definitely the case with LinkedIn and other social media platforms. I mean, there's so much to love as well. It gives you access to so many people in your industry, and they're all just a click away. And now more than ever, people on LinkedIn are so generous with their time and so willing to share their expertise. So you can just gain so much by building your own tribe in your own industry on LinkedIn. It starts really, with the basics, with your profile and headline. I mean, as Iona was talking about, the attention span is so short now. You've got to grab people's attention with your headline and your profile. You've got to make the best possible impression on potential clients who will be checking out your LinkedIn profile to see your credentials. That first impression starts with the headline and the about profile. I suppose the first point I'm making there is you're more than your job title. The default that a lot of people do is they maybe cut and paste their CV into their about section, and it's essentially a list of job titles and accomplishments that really tell you nothing about who the person is. There's nothing that makes them unique or original or stand out from the million other people who do the same job as them. So that's the first point. Make it more than just your CV and your job titles. Make it about you. One of the ways to do that is there's a phrase, steal like an artist. So don't be afraid to look at other people's profiles, see what works, look at people in your industry, look at their headlines, study their about profiles, and take it and make it your own, and turn it into something that kind of reflects you and your personality. Don't be afraid to experiment with your headline either. It's very easy to edit and change it back if it doesn't work. I changed mine about 6 weeks ago, and I reckon I'm getting maybe twice as many positive requests or positive replies to connection requests. I'm getting quite a few leads a week from those connection requests that I'm sending out, and I think that's largely down to just tweaking my profile and my headline so that it speaks more directly to the type of person I'm looking to connect with and do business with. The next thing is the headline. How do you craft a catchy headline? It is probably a question that maybe some people have. You can ask a question. A question at the start is a really kind of interesting way to kind of grab people's attention. My question is, what's your origin story? Which refers to one of the services I offer, and which I'll talk about later. So it's a really, hopefully, a way to make people, read a bit further and dig a bit deeper to find out what your origin story actually is all about. If you're an accountant, an example of a question could be something like, does GST get you down? Or do you hate working with numbers as much as I love working with numbers? Or, just something like that that's a little bit different to make you stand out. Another common technique is to try and use kind of between 3 to 6 words to kind of create a catchphrase that really talks to the pain that you solve for your customer. It's not so much what you do, so much as what you do for your customer. I checked out Iona's headline. I think it's a really good example of that. She's got at the start of her headline, reach your audience, generate leads, stress-free websites. So it's 3 distinct phrases, 8 words long, and immediately you know kind of what you're going to get with Iona, and that's so valuable. And again, it just makes her stand out rather than just plain old website developer. She's talking directly to the customer and the needs, and that's crucial in the headline. There's a lady called Lanier Johnson who's a guru when it comes to all things LinkedIn. She's a New Zealand lady, and her headline is Word Wizard. She calls herself the Word Wizard, which again is a little bit different. She also calls herself New Zealand's #1 LinkedIn expert. But then the catchline is helping business owners and professionals use LinkedIn to achieve their goals. So again, very clear and very concise about what she's doing, and that's a really nice, simple process that you can borrow to craft a better headline. It's simply I help X, and X being your ideal client or customer, do Y, which is the customer's pain point or the benefit that you offer. So that's just a simple way of tweaking your existing headline to make it more than just a job title. Moving on then to tell a story. Your about section in LinkedIn gives you about 450 words, I think 2,600 characters to tell a story. But again, a lot of people waste that kind of real estate on just rehashing what's in their CV or what's in their experience section. That really it's a waste, really, because unless you kind of grab people's attention, they're probably not going to read down to find out more about your experience. If you notice in the LinkedIn profile, you only see the first 2 or 3 lines of person's about profile. If you're not catching them in those first 2 or 3 lines, they're really unlikely to click to read anymore, and they're really unlikely to read on to find out your experience. And again, you're likely not to be remembered. So again, that kind of first 2 or 3 lines in particular, try and grab their attention. One way I recommend to kind of start telling your story in that about section is to go through your CV and jot down some bullet points next to the jobs that you've worked, the major kind of milestones in those jobs, the major turning points, and the anecdotes that you tell people about your kind of working life and your working career. But as Iona pointed out earlier, don't overshare. You don't need to overshare. You don't need to share your embarrassing stories or your deep dark secrets. What you're looking for are stories that kind of illustrate your values, that reflect your skills and your experience, and explain what you do and why you do it so well. So essentially, that's the key to crafting, I think, a memorable story on your LinkedIn profile that kind of gets people to kind of, I suppose, either contact you directly or make a connection or contact you to find out more. The next stage after that, I suppose, is if you've got if you're happy with your headline and your profile, and the next step is to start engaging and commenting and posting yourself. Some people on here might already be doing that regularly. Others may be lurking on LinkedIn and wondering, what do I have to add to the conversation? A year ago, I was a lurker. I've been on LinkedIn for maybe 6 months before I posted anything, and really just unsure about what to post. But I think the key to it is to really just get over your fears and realize that it's all in your head. Well, as I said, my first post was a year ago. I think I had 300 connections at the time. And my first post got something like 6 comments. I think one was from my sister, one was from a business coach I worked with at the time, and a couple of friends jumped on there as well. That first post ended with the words, "Don't be so hard on yourself. Get something down on paper and then make it better." And that was a line that I borrowed from an American writer, and it's really true. You've got to just get something down on paper and get over your fears, because it is all in your head. After that first post, I forced myself to post once a week, then twice or 3 times a week, and for about 6 months last year, I posted 5 times a week, and Monday to Friday. I'm not suggesting that's for everybody. It's not sustainable. I don't think it does take time and an effort to kind of post on LinkedIn that many times, but it is a great way to overcome your fears and build your audience. Here are, I suppose, are some tips or some things that have worked for me to help me kind of post more regularly on LinkedIn. I think the first thing is to kind of understand why you're reluctant to post on LinkedIn. Write down what's stopping you from sharing your thoughts and your opinions. I think successful business people are usually very good at what they do. They're used to being in control, and they strive for perfection. And that's kind of exactly what makes posting on LinkedIn so scary to some people, because it's not in their control how many people respond to their comments or what the results are. So there's 4 things I think to realize. 1, if you haven't written before, your first efforts will be far from perfect. Some of your early posts will probably suck, but that's okay. 2, as I said, you're not in control of how people react to what you write, so it's kind of pointless kind of worrying about that. Thirdly, there are no right or wrong answers on LinkedIn. It's your story and your opinion, so own it and damn the begrudgers is a phrase that I like to use. And 4, just know that it does get easier. The more you post, the easier it gets, because you just get confident and more confident in what you're saying, and the type of content that your connections and your audience starts responding to, and it generally gets easier. You build momentum. You got to take baby steps. Start small. Start by liking and commenting on other people's posts, and then, as I say, build up to posting yourself more regularly. A great way of getting a sense of what to post is to check out a profile of somebody, maybe in your industry, somebody who's quite popular. Again, I don't know if you can see that screen where I've got my profile up. Yeah, cool. If you scroll down to the activity section and see this small little blue button here, see all. If you click on that and then you go into posts in here, you essentially get a full list of what they've posted in the past. And what I tend to do now and again is study other people in my field and study what they post. And you can get a real sense for what's working for them and what's not working for them. You can get a sense for kind of introductions, questions to ask. So that's a really, really good way of kind of, I suppose, upskilling yourself on what to post on LinkedIn for your particular field. I'll get out of there and get back into the presentation. Here we are. When commenting on LinkedIn, be mindful that it's a positive platform. You know, try and add value with your comments. Cut and paste a relevant quote, maybe from a book or a business article that you've read. I find a really useful way to add value to a conversation, or maybe answer a question that's asked in the post. Again, it's a really good way to kind of get yourself noticed and be seen as somebody who adds value to the platform. This next one is fairly self-explanatory. Start collecting ideas. You got to, you know, it's all about your inputs. Your output reflects your inputs. One of the things that I do is I have a Google Doc, and anytime I read anything that's maybe relevant to what I might post, I cut and paste a quote from that article and just put it in the Google Doc. And then anytime I'm stuck for inspiration, I go and grab something from there and use it as a starting point. And again, it's just to build up a kind of, I suppose, a treasure trove of stuff you can draw on, either for a post or for a comment on somebody else's post. In terms of finding your voice, Iona touched on this. You got to find your voice. One of the best pieces of advice I ever read about writing was to write the way you talk. I mean, for a lot of people, sitting down in front of a blank screen and trying to write a post can be torture. I get that, but try and write as if you're telling the story to a friend over a coffee or a beer. The key to good writing is for it to sound so much like you that your friends can hear your voice when they read it. And if you can do that, you'll automatically see that people will just engage a lot more with your post. Spend a bit of time on the headline and the introduction, because again, as with the profile, you've only got a couple of lines to kind of grab people's attention. If your first line is a bit kind of ho-hum and doesn't really go anywhere, or doesn't intrigue, or doesn't kind of make people wonder what you're going to say next, they probably won't read any further. So again, those first 2 or 3 lines are kind of crucial in any post. And finally, when it comes to LinkedIn, as I said earlier, feel the fear and post anyway. There's a thing that I like to call après post panic attack, where you press post and then you suddenly think, oh my God, what have I just posted? Who's going to want to read that? I call it après post panic attack. And it's very real. I mean, I worked as a journalist for 12, 14 years before I started posting on LinkedIn. And I was more terrified posting on LinkedIn than I was at publishing a story in a national newspaper. It was bizarre, because you're putting yourself a little bit of yourself out there every time you post. Or if you're doing it right, you should be putting a little bit of yourself out there. But I think the key is to put a little bit of yourself out there and then bring it back to a universal truth about your industry. Make it relevant. Ask a question at the end, or tie it all together at the end with a question that makes your story or your post relevant to people in your industry. One final thing, taking an online course is a good idea. There's a guy called Glenn Marvin who runs a company called Connector, and he was offering a $1 LinkedIn course, which was like, it takes you through the basics and a lot of the things I'm talking about here. And they've got a Facebook community as well. So being accountable and having a community around you is a really good way of kind of getting over your fears. And if you haven't started, or if you don't know where to start, so that'll be a good one to check out. finally, if we've got time, we may be running out of time, Mary, are we?
We are running a little bit tight for time there, Robert. So, yeah, do you want to just do a minute or so?
Very
if
quickly,
any questions, people pop them in. There we go.
No, very quickly. The last thing that I'll talk about is Your Origin Story, which is a service that helps people find their voice and mind their past to try and get started in telling stories on LinkedIn or social media. It's something you can do yourself. As I said earlier, look into your past, look at your CV, look at the highs and lows, and figure out kind of the major turning points and milestones, and break them up into little chunks, and you'll find heaps of inspiration for posts that you can write about and share with other people who have gone through similar things or are going through similar things. So yeah, that's about it.
Oh, brilliant. Do you want to unshare your screen, Robert? And we'll just come, there we go, we'll just come back to the center again. Yep. Gosh, well, I think we've had everybody listening so deeply and it's been so informative. I'm just going to have a little check. I can't actually see any questions at this time, so we must have answered everything pretty well, which is pretty good. I think one of the things that came up when we were just chatting yesterday, weren't we, Iona and Robert, was here we are, we've got all this information and we know that it's important to make sure that your online presence is supporting any sales efforts. And now everybody's empowered with this knowledge, you know. But one of the key things that will separate you from other people in your industry at this time is actually executing on that knowledge. And so in a moment, I'm going to put the slide up, which has got the email addresses for Robert, for Iona, and for myself. So if you want to talk to anybody about any of this stuff that you've heard today, just reach out. But really too, it's important to actually take action. Iona, from your perspective, what's the first thing, just in about, I don't know, 30 seconds, what's something somebody could have a look at today after they've finished with the webinar? And then we'll ask Robert and then we'll wrap up. What do you think, Iona?
Sure. I just think look at your website. Just actually really look at it. So sometimes it just sits there and wallows, or we stop seeing it. But look at it like your ideal customer, and just be actually quite brutal, and just think, does it answer those questions that I had in that list? Are those things really clear? Do I have a clear customer pathway? Yeah, that's it really. Just assess and review your own website, and then from that create an action list. And you can just do one little change a day. If it's navigation, if it's changing the images, if it's changing text in this piece, that's all. Just do one little thing a day and just bring your website back to the level that it needs to be.
Oh, brilliant. And Robert, have you got anything that you think somebody could go away from and that could be a first action that they should consider?
Yeah, I think the trick I showed you there, to look at somebody else's post activity, is one of the most valuable things that I've done myself. It gives you, take notes as you're doing it, but it gives you a real sense of kind of what other people in your industry are posting, what are the subjects and topics that people in your industry are interested in and reacting to. And if you're starting from scratch, it's the best way to really get a sense of what you should be posting. And again, if you're lurking, just start by commenting on those posts, and add a little bit, add some value. Try and make it more than just, oh, great post, thanks for sharing. Just add a little, kind of one sentence or two sentences. That's just a way to build your confidence and to post regularly.
Oh, brilliant. Okay, we've got a couple of quick questions. Let's just quickly answer those. In the questions, Rod says, Robert, what was the name of the LinkedIn course you mentioned? Was that with Connector with
Glenn Marvin? So it's Connector with a K, Konnector, Connector, and the guy who runs it is a guy called Glenn Marvin. M-A-R-V-I-N. So you can find Glenn Marvin on LinkedIn, and Connector online as well.
Oh, that's great. And then another LinkedIn question for Robert. LinkedIn must be the thing that a few people are thinking about today. Mabel says, thank you, Robert. I have different worlds I'm connected to and belong to. How do I translate that on LinkedIn and still be authentic? So what's a quick thought on that to start off? You can always be in touch with Robert Mabel. We'll give you the email in a minute. There you go.
No, listen, I would suggest decide which world is more appropriate on LinkedIn, and if the other world is more appropriate on a different social platform. I think if you mix up your messages, then yeah, you might struggle, I think, because people will be a bit lost. So there's lots of social platforms out there, social media platforms out there. One will probably be more suited to LinkedIn than the other, I would guess. And that would be my advice, because otherwise you're going to be chopping and changing and confusing people. That would be my advice.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you. Okay, what we'll do, we'll just swap to a shared screen. And so here we are. What we're going to do is we're just going to skip through the presentation for a moment. There we go. And well, a last word from Winston Churchill: the empires of the future are the empires of the mind. Of course, that's part of our Sales War Chest theme. And I think that time has really come, is that people now are thinking about what they're going to do. And this is a way that you can get your business ahead by getting some of that mind share, getting online a bit more. So hopefully you've got some inspiration today. Let's keep in touch. Here are all our email addresses if you want to get in touch with Iona, hello@growmybusiness.co.nz. We've got Robert at storybud.co, or myself, Mary, hello@magnifyconsulting.co.nz. And join in, of course, again to Sales War Chest. We'll keep you posted about our future webinars. And thanks for joining us today, everybody. Thank you.